Hey friends, Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you joining me this morning. And today we're continuing on with our story now. We're going to look at the descent here, the time leading up to the flood and what that can mean in our lives. And it's not looking at it as this ancient story that's all about a historically accurate thing. It's a much bigger story than that. It's a story about us and our spiritual lives and how we go through this process, sad as it may be, where floods come. They're just part of life. And we're talking about floods here that are sort of our own making. Granted, a lot of floods are not, but we'll be talking about some floods that are. So how this story gets started is the world starts to populate. And then there's this interesting line here, and here we're reading from Genesis 6, verse 2. The sons of God saw the daughters of humanity, and they were good, and they took wives for themselves among all those whom they chose. So it's this little line here. And so here's the context. It's talking about the world being populated. The world starts to go out. Here are these people, men and women, start to marry off, and the world's population starts to grow. And it's interesting, that's part of the Bible. And what's that all about? And again, this is within the context of knowing that a flood is coming. Well, one possible way to hold that out there is when we start to think of when we fall in love with our own thoughts. So we go out there, we start to, these idea of delusions that we talked about yesterday, how they just attract everything to them, and how even the good stuff, and here the good stuff are represented there by wives, even the good stuff starts to get somehow corrupted and married with this in a way that's just not healthy. So that's where I want to shift into the idea of cynicism here and how cynicism, what role can it play in our lives? And it's not a very good role. I think cynicism is one of you could call it one of the 7 deadly sins in a certain sense, because cynicism is just spiritually deadly. It's just spiritually deadly. And boy, if there's a force we have to be careful of, this has to be one of the top ones. So why is that? Why is cynicism so deadly? And this is what I wanted to share with you. One fact about cynicism, and it's not a fact that most people really think about, and I need to remind myself of it a lot too. And it's this idea that one of the problems with cynicism is that cynicism is always right. Cynicism is always right. So if we have a cynical perspective out there on the world, we will be able to prove anything. We will be able to flip anything to prove our cynicism. And boy, I've just seen that. I've just seen it over and over and over again. And I know I can do it. Something positive can happen and instantly in our mind starts going, yeah, but they really did that for this reason, or they really did that for that, or that isn't really helpful. And that just isn't the way to live. And that's that idea. Again, like we have our own particular ego need to be right. And then here's this event that happens, again, talking about a marriage here, and we marry that event, this good part of this thing, but we marry it to this sort of this deluded part of ourselves, this cynical part of ourselves. And it's deadly because it's always right. I know the cynics in my life, like, boy, everything ends up being deeply cynical. Everything gets explained in a certain way. Everything is a battle. Everything is war. And folks, it's tiresome. It's tiresome. Like I saw a friend yesterday on social media, and they had published this beautiful thing. It was a little reminisce from Stephen Jobs, sort of some of his insights at the end of his life. And another person put down there as a comment, put like, well, that's nice, but it's poorly written and it's simplistic. And I'm like, oh, stop. That doesn't go anywhere. Like, really, where does that go? So if you find yourself cynical and you do that kind of thing, what have you just proven? What have you proven to the other person? What have you shared of value with the other person? Is the world better because you managed to remind someone that, well, it could have been a little better written? Like, come on. I think we can do a lot better than that. We really have to call the question, that, because again, folks, and I think we all probably have a little cynic in us somewhere with certain areas. And just please remember that cynical behavior, the challenge is it really will create its own complete way of seeing the world. So if you want a complete system for understanding something, you want a complete system where you will always have the right answer, where you'll always know exactly what's going on, choose cynicism, because you'll always be right. And people aren't cynical, like they know enough to know they won't always be right. They'll know enough to have soft edges. They'll know enough that they just don't know. They just don't know. And that's the kind of humility I think God calls us to, and that God can work with in very, very powerful ways. So that's the thought for today, folks, and I hope that makes sense, and I hope it gets you to the point where we live it enough that maybe the cynic in us can die a little bit today. Wouldn't that be a healthy thing? So with that, friends, what we're going to do now is we're going to do our little meditation followed by a little prayer. After the prayer, we're going to do a little blessing. We'll say hi to folks on social media. And just a quick reminder that tomorrow I will be joining you from the Ocean City Boardwalk, which will be super fun to do. So definitely looking forward to that tomorrow morning. All right, friends, let's get a little breath. A line from Scripture. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thine will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little cheery hello here. And again, I hope you're all doing very well. And I'm super excited. We did get our whole dance card filled down at the shore, which is really, really fun for me. That's great to get a chance to see everybody. All right, so let's take a look at our comments here. Okay, it's not giving me full comments. All right, well, I will go with the comments that I can see. Mary Ann wrote, "What a creative mind Stephen Jobs had. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here?" Stephen Jobs. Yeah, and he's interesting, Mary Ann, because at the end of his life, he had this beautiful part where he was commenting on just a comment on life, and it was something like, I don't have the exact quote right, and other people have used this quote with me, where he said something to the effect of, "It sure is beautiful," or something like that. I forget the exact phrase that he used. Marcus writes, "Cynics forget that their opinions don't feel very good, not even to them," and they really don't. I mean, how many people really enjoy being cynical? It's not a fun place to be at all. Shannon from out in Austin, Texas said hello. And good morning to you there, Shannon. Mary writes, "Is cynicism tied into the comparison trap or jealousy that gives us when we feel less and lost in thinking that being right or defeating others will actually escalate us? but it actually deflates us. Humility is out of reach. Yeah, it is so interesting the way cynicism. Yeah, it's like, Mary, I think you're really onto something there. It's like this really subtle poison that when somebody gets something that we kind of wish we had gotten. At least it can show up this way for me. A lot of the time, my cynical self can show up there, and it's like this real subtle poison, because then I can't enjoy what they obviously are clearly enjoying, and that they should enjoy it. Let me see if I'm just going to try one quick other thing here, folks, because I do want to see these other comments, because I think they are incredibly important, and it is. As I remind people a lot, cynicism in my mind, one of the challenges of it is that it becomes not only the way to explain the world, but it's a little like timesing anything by zero. Once we start to do that, that's really all we're left with. It's just a zero sum kind of thing. Folks, so my apologies. I see there's some other comments there, but I, for some reason, cannot access them this morning. So my apologies, but I'll go through and offer some written commentary there. So folks, just wishing you all the best, and God bless. Have a great day, and maybe today, maybe the cynic in all of